Hello, Grace Point Church. Pastor Mike here. Do you know what I was doing the other day? I was having a blast. I was doing some reading and biblical studies. Do you ever do that for fun? I hope you do. I hope you're like, what do I do today? I can't wait till I can read another book about the Bible. That's awesome. I was doing that with this one here. It's called Urban Legends of the Old Testament, 40 Common Misconceptions. I like this book. They go through like these verses that people will take out of context sometimes, and then they say, here's what they say it means, but then when you look at the context, it actually means something else. I was doing that the other day, and I read, they've got a chapter here, what are they calling this? Urban Legends. Urban legend that women were created inferior to men. Genesis 2, 18 through 20. Some people teach that because of Genesis 2, women are inferior to men. They're going to say that's a urban legend. That ain't true. There's some surprising ones in here. They've got one on Christians must bring their whole tithe into the local church based on Malachi 3, 8 to 10. They're going to say that's not true. They talk about Behemoth and Leviathan, whether or not those were dinosaurs from Job 40, 41. This is really well done. These are biblical scholars. But I found they had chapter 21. They said this is an urban legend. If Americans repent, God promises to fix our nation. 2 Chronicles 7:14. They say that's an urban legend. That's not how we are to read 2 Chronicles 7:14, which is the favorite verse of these books that we're going through. It is the beloved verse. People quote it all the time. 2 Chronicles 7:14. What does it say? If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will seek my face and turn and heal their land. And how the teaching usually goes is that if Americans do this, right? Our politicians are becoming corrupt. The judicial system is getting all messed up. The business leaders are immoral. If Americans apply this to our lives, then God will heal America because America is God's people. And that is actually not how to read this passage. That is to take this passage out of context. What's really interesting to note here is that when he's talking about, he says, if my people who are called by my name, that's who he's talking about. Who are God's people? Who are the people who are called out by his name? Well, in those days, who he was talking about was Israel, the Israelites. And they were currently operating under the Mosaic covenant, which is talked about all over in these first 8 chapters of 2 Chronicles. And so the original audience was the Israelites. So he's saying, the Israelites, the people who are followers of me, if those specific people call out to me, then I will hear them. One of the things we know is that Israel, the Israelites, is not the exact same thing as America. And so this passage is not really about Americans specifically, because I'm no more a follower of God as an American than my Nigerian or Korean or South American or Middle Easterner brother or sister, right? In these days, those who call out to the Lord, those who are the Lord's, are the people who follow Jesus, no matter where you're living, no matter whether you're in North America, South America, not the America, wherever. And so it's important to read this properly so that we don't get confused, so that we don't take this out of context, and we don't start to act as if Americans are better or more beloved by God than the rest of the world. That would be ethnocentrism. That would be an inappropriate application of this passage. So it's actually kind of a bummer. I kind of wish that this passage was specifically talking to Americans, and it was God's guarantee that if we listen to God, then America will go back to what it needs to be. That's not what this passage is. That's to read that passage like that would be a misreading. would be to take it out of context. Actually, one of the things we learn when we read this and study this in context is that this passage is less a promise for politicians, but this is more of a pastoral promise. This is not about politics. This is more about God's people congregationally, and it's really very pastoral. What I'm not saying is that this passage has no contemporary application in our world today. By no means am I saying that. This passage has tons of implications for how we can live today and what God is going to do based on what we do. And I want to be able to share that with you. I want you to know what the positive stuff is. How do we read this rightly? I want you to know about that. But I'm out of time already. This is a Mike in 5. I can't go too long. So if you want to find out how to read this in context and how to see those implications and the encouragement that comes from this passage for us, including for those of us who are in America, you got to come on Sunday because that's what we're going to be preaching on this Sunday. Last Sunday we covered 3 chapters. This Sunday we're just covering this one verse. So check out 2 Chronicles 7:14. Many of you already probably know it by heart, but look at it. We're going to study it on Sunday, and I think God is going to show us something marvelous. I hope I see you on Sunday.